Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have my brother from another mother on the show again, back by popular demand. It is Brian Hess, the sequel. So stay with us. And we're back, and I'm ready to bring Brian on. Brian, welcome back to the show, man.
What's happening, brother? Good to be here, man. Good to be here.
Dude, it's great to have you here. The last time you were on the show, you were sitting in a rest area in your truck in the middle of northern Ohio.
That's probably accurate. That sounds about right. Yep. And I was at a truck stop or something, right? I was parked next to an old RV, in my pickup truck. Yep.
Yeah. So, that was 3 years ago. I can't even believe that was 3 years ago.
It's crazy, right?
It seems like yesterday, man, for real. Like it's been 3 years ago. And, you're one of my best friends in the world. We talk all the time. We talk business a lot. We talk about people. I'm just kidding. But we have fun, man. And one of the things that I've noticed about you is a lot of things have changed, man. A lot of things have changed. And for you, I mean, for me too, but I've watched you just explode in growth in your business and in your life. So I want to talk about that today, man. I want to talk about what's changed over the last 3 years.
Dude, it's hard to put that into words, to be honest, man. I mean, when you and I first connected and got to know each other, it was kind of like the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, right? We had just opened the Pavement Group. It was a new company. Top Contractor School was new to that, new as well. I started that right around the same time. And both of those companies, man, if I look back, it's just been an absolutely, crazy ride. I don't even think I was new to social media then too, right? So I really didn't have a whole lot of experience. Back then there was no podcast, there was no, social media presence. It was all brand new. I was just getting to know people like yourself and, many other people that I consider friends now that, really helped me through that journey of, figuring out how to share my story and share my message and do it in a way that, attracts people to our company and really just makes it all work, So it's been incredible, dude. I mean, I shared with you, a couple of weeks ago, just the progress that we're making as a company and, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish. Literally, bro, I said it this morning on Morning Perspective. Like, I wake up every day now, man, and I feel like I'm living in my dreams. Like I'm living in this life that I once thought, man, I wish I could have that. And
we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about, I mean, like when I first Top Contractor School didn't exist at all. I don't even think it was an idea yet when we first started hanging out. Like it didn't exist. And now, dude, you're blowing that up. You help contractors all over, not just the U.S., but outside of the U.S. too.
Yeah, Canada. We got a handful of companies in Europe. I think there's 380 something people the last time I looked in the programs, and it's been amazing, man. And I said to someone this morning, just the impact of being able to see people go from point A to point B. It's cooler than your own journey. when you have your own journey, that's one thing. But, just being able to go from point A to point B, along with somebody else, like alongside, and play some small role in somebody else's success, and watching, some of the things that we're able to do. We're talking about, how to take Top Contractor School and that core group of the inner circle people that we have, and making an impact outside of, just our own businesses. But how do we take our success, our financial success, and impact people throughout our industry and outside of our industry, and supporting different charities and things like that. I mean, the things that are happening, dude, are literally surreal. I mean, it's unbelievable. I have these calls with people that come up with these ideas that are part of TCS that are so impactful, to the world and to our industry. And none of that, all of that was just, a thought 3 years ago.
Doug Wing he knows a little bit about building a giant company. You've heard of Little Giant Ladders, right?
Dude, it's funny. So I was at Costco with Lori, and it was the week after or day after you had Doug on your Grow Live Academy.
Yeah.
And there was a pile of Little Giant Ladders for sale inside of Costco. And I was like, Lori was sitting on the couch listening to me listen to that call. And I said, dude, that's the ladders. Look, there was like hundreds of Little Giant Ladders sitting there. And she's like, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, we're just rolling through Costco, and there they are. So,
did you buy one?
I know all about them. I know you do.
So, and we'll cover this in a minute, Jay. So here he says, I'm a residential fence company, HOA affordable fence company. So why don't we've already done your life story. We can tell everybody you're from the best city in the country, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You grew up there, you've been there your whole life, that general area. And you are a fan of the best football team ever, the Steelers. So
yes, sir. Can't wait for football season.
I know. So talk a little bit about what Top Contractor School is and what you do in Top Contractor School to help contractors.
Yeah. So Top Contractor School was, founded on the idea of, me wanting to share what I knew about sales, marketing, and leadership with other people within our industry, within the asphalt, paving, and concrete industry. At first, that was my idea. Was the Pavement Group? We're a nationwide company, and so we operate in a few different cities, but then we service our customers all over the country. And so my intention in the beginning was straight up to just impact those people and help those contractors across the country that were helping us. So, we have contractors that go out and give us bids and look at properties and complete the jobs for us. And so I wanted to be able to give back to those people who were helping us build our company. And that was the original idea. And so as that changed, we started to evolve that into different programs outside of just the contractors that we worked with, into a sales mentorship program, an operations mentorship program. And through those programs, we really started to create interest in ongoing training. Like, how do we, continue to get the information that's going to take our businesses to the next level? And so me being a person that came from corporate America, I recognized the lack of training in the construction industry. And I wanted to solve that problem. I wanted to be able to offer whatever knowledge I had to people so that they could put that out into their own businesses and be able to grow their businesses locally, which helped us in turn. Right. So, I started on that process of doing these mentorship programs. And then basically the people who went through those programs said, hey, we want to continue to receive training. And so we created a program called Top Contractor School Elite, and that was the ability for people to have ongoing training. So three Zoom calls a month, ongoing. Every Tuesday afternoon, we have those calls at 3:00, and we cover everything from marketing and social media to leadership and job costing and you name it, anything within the construction industry. And so eventually we started breaking out of just our own, vertical into asphalt, paving, and concrete. And now we have, every type of contractor you can imagine, roofing, general contracting, excavating, home remodeling, snow removal, you name it. We have those contractors, and we have a playbook that just works, for contractors. So,
Jerry Eisenhower, who I think you've seen in the Grow Live Academy calls, he works with chimney sweeps all over the nation.
There you go.
So he said, love a guy helping companies in the blue collar world. That's, what, man, I think what you're doing is, we've talked in great detail. You and I have about some of the stuff that you're doing and how you're helping people. And I've seen some of the testimonials. I've been on these calls that you do. You've had me speak to your group about social media stuff. So, talk about some of because I've seen it, man, some of the success stories that, where people go from $100,000 a year to over $1 million a year like that, and attribute their growth to what they've learned from you.
Yeah. I was just telling one of the stories this morning, there's a lot of them, right, that just, multiply in size and, and then, further than that, the impact that they're able to make. We've got people in our group that are building schools for little girls in India to be able to get educated as a result of the increased success that they've had. I mean, it's amazing. Wow. Probably the number one thing that I would point to is just a recent, this year, for those people who follow on social media, you may have seen it, but we took a survey at the end of the first quarter of this year, and our inner circle group, the average growth was over 300% over last year for that entire group. And those are not small companies, right? We've got companies in there doing $15-20 million and up, so it's a significant amount of growth that these people have. And it's really a result of, I think, man, it is an increase in belief, right? Over everything else, it's an increase in belief in what they're capable of. And I like to say that a lot of the things that we figure out in life, happen as a result of taking action on something. And then you learn something as a result of taking that action that you didn't expect. And so for me, taking that action has resulted in learning the power of community, right? The power of having, all these people pulling the train in the same direction, using the same processes, using the same marketing approach, using the same sales approach, and running their companies really with the same foundational values. It is incredible to watch what happens when you get that community built. And what it is people start to have just a massive amount of courage that they maybe didn't have before, as a result of, well, hey, if this person can do it, so can I. And it's been incredible, man. There's a guy that actually started his business in high school. He started a seal coating business in high school, and he has scaled that business to, I believe this year he'll do $3.5 million, and he's barely legal to drink.
Look, she says her husband isn't a contractor, but he owns a company where he rents and sells equipment to contractors. Would he benefit from the training and coaching?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I believe that, it's called Top Contractor School, but in all reality, like, anybody that serves that community or is attached to that community really is a great candidate to be part of it, because of not just what they can get out of it, but what they can contribute and the connections that they can make. It's amazing to watch what happens when people get plugged into other like-minded people. I'd mentioned to you the last time we talked about the event that we had down in Fort Lauderdale.
That was crazy. Just
the impact that came from that, man. I mean, the one of the guys that I was just talking about, he lost one of his employees, was in a tragic accident on the last day and died. And we had, people within the group and came together, donated money, but they also were offering like, hey man, if we need to pull some people together to go help that guy's business, we're going to do whatever it takes as a community to make sure that, those people who are part of Top Contractor School in that community are taken care of. And we've really, dude, I've been so blessed to find, the quality of people that we have in those groups, not forget about business and success and financial stuff, just the quality of human beings that we have. And that is probably the thing that I'm most proud of is, how many incredible human beings we have in there that are willing to do anything for each other to make, their companies more successful. And that is, that's the best payback of all of
it. Just so everybody is clear, you're not paying me for this. and look, Jen, just send me 5,400 and I'll work it out for you. That's an inside joke. She's always like, every time I talk to you, it's 5,400. So she's like hashtag 5,400. But anyway, so just so everybody knows, like Brian and I are really, really good friends. I've been to his house, hung out with him and his family. My family and I were over there, and Brian and I have some really in-depth. We coach each other, I would say, right? Yeah. And you'll go, yeah, I had this thing that I can't even think of an example, but I had this thing I found that, and that has this form and it really can help you streamline certain areas of your business and here, I'll send it over to you. Check it out. And like, you just send me things and you're like, dude, check this out. It really might help you with, whatever. And, you're just I'm not blowing hot air up your skirt. I mean, look, you're a good dude that you genuinely care about helping other people. And I think that is a huge reason for the massive. When I say massive, I've watched this guy go from, hey, we're bidding on a $50,000 job, which was huge, to, hey, we're bidding on a $30 million project now, or what? I mean, you're just blowing up, dude, and I freaking love it. So, and I'm talking millions. We've gone from tens of thousands to millions in an incredibly short period of time, really, relatively speaking.
Yeah, it's surreal. I mean, the multiplication of the company is, it's in a lot of ways, man, we're kind of holding back the growth because we want to make sure that it's done right. But yeah, it's exponential beyond what, and my team always jokes because they always say, like, you're the one that, everybody else thinks it's not possible. And I'm generally the one that always thinks it's possible. But some of the things that we've pulled off, man, even for me, I look at and say, like, wow, it's just, it's amazing what you're able to do when you just put one foot in front of the other, and you do things right, and I always like to say, everybody's got values and principles that they live by until it's going to cost them some money. And then you'll figure out what they really stand for. We've been through those scenarios, right, where we were going to lose, $30,000 or $50,000. And when we didn't have it, right. Like when we did, when it would be really tough to lose 30 grand. I believe that when you make the right decisions in those scenarios that, you're repaid for that, and I think some of that is the harvest that we're reaping. And, we continue to try to do the right things. I had an interview with a guy this morning that I worked with years ago, that I worked in the same company with. And now, he wants to come here and he basically said, I want to be part of what you're doing because of the culture that I see online, of our company. And so stuff like that, man, is really, it's surreal. The numbers are great, but the impact is really what makes it special. You can make money lots of different ways, right? But knowing that you're doing it the right way and knowing that you're making a difference is a big deal. We had 2 people in our company last year buy homes for the first time in their family history. And that is, you know, for me, that is the things that give me chills more than, you know, any accomplishment or revenue growth or anything like that. It's like, you know, how are we impacting people, and what are the generations of lives that are impacted by that ability for, you know, those kids to live in a place where they feel stable and safe, and, you know, and, you know, they don't have to go anywhere. It's their own house. And, you know, those things are really, you know, what get me up in the morning and get me going is that, you know, the money will not drive you forever.
It won't, dude. If you guys can't see this dude's heart, then open your eyes, because that's what I'm talking about. That is what is driving your incredible success, man. Is you deeply, genuinely care about the well-being of other people, and so you know, talk about the because you know, you were on the show. I extracted from you the horror stories of not being able to feed your family, or, you know, the challenges you've had of that, like just not being able to survive at times, and you know, and look, Top Contractor School and the paving group. How old of 3-4 years now? How
Yeah,
old?
March 28th, 2018 is when we formed the pavement group, and Top Contractor School was right around the same time.
And you formed the paving group because of your 30 years of experience in paving, right?
No. It's funny, man. I just a podcast just came out yesterday with Tom Reber. If you guys don't follow Tom, so Tom's he has the Contractor Fight is his company, and he's got an HGTV show that's coming out here this fall. And Tom asked me, like, and I've never been asked this question, which is pretty crazy. He's like, dude, I don't know anybody that like opened a company and just went national, like right out of the gate. Like, what the hell were you thinking? And I was like, I said, I don't know, man. It just made sense to me. You know, like, I don't think I put a whole lot of thought into it. And to be honest, I haven't thought about that for 3 years until you asked me that question. But,
oh,
you know,
God.
To your point, man, like, it wasn't always pretty. You know, there was a time in 2009, and I just started sharing this story. And, you know, I was always hesitant, man. I'm sure you feel the same, of like sharing your, you know, sob story, if you will, because I'm not looking for anybody's sympathy, but I do feel like, you know, maybe sharing some of these things can help somebody, can maybe, you know, reach somebody that's going through something right at this moment, that maybe it helps them be able to move forward and have some hope, you know, and that's what we all need at times. But, yeah, you know, there was a point in 2009, man, where I was, you know, I was in a really dark place. I didn't know, you know, what I was doing. I was, you know, drinking a lot, going out all the time, you know, priorities all messed up. You know, I was always from the outside in successful by most people's standards, you know, like when I was in corporate America, I did pretty well for my age. You know, I was 20 something years old, making, you know, well into the six figures, you know, doing well. But in all reality, what is doing well, right? You know, and by my definition, it is, you know, getting closer to your dreams. And so in 2009, I really had a moment where I was divorced. You know, I was, you know, not knowing where I was going, drinking too much, doing all the wrong things, not being productive with my time. And I remember a day, man, where I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, am I actually going to have any of the things that I wanted, any of the things that I dreamed I would have? You know, am I ever going to have a family? Am I ever going to get married again? Am I going to have, you know, the success that I know I'm capable of having? And I was in a really dark place, man, like where I didn't really know what to do. You know, I didn't know where to turn or how to fix it. And I remember thinking to myself,
hey, who's that little hottie?
Yeah, that's the one that helped save it all. I'm getting to her here in a second. But I remember sitting there thinking, man, like there was a point where I remember thinking, like, man, would anybody really care if I wasn't here? You know, and that's a tough place to be, you know, and I remember sitting there thinking, I was in a relationship with a person that, I went from, one relationship to the next with girls that wasn't good, and it wasn't good because I wasn't good, like right. I just wasn't in a good place. And I remember thinking to myself, like, something has to change, right? Something has to change in order for this to all work. And it has to start with me. And, I just took a hard look in the mirror at what I was doing. And it took many years, man, of, recognizing that I needed to be better, but not necessarily being better in that moment, but always knowing that there was more there, that I had more in the tank to give. And I needed to, get around the right people, get the right advice, get the right mentorship, get the right guidance, make the right decisions, and be willing to sacrifice for what it is that I was trying to achieve. And, for me, that started to happen when that young lady came into my life, and I remember thinking to myself, is this real? Right? Because right. Everything was so sideways for so long that I started thinking, like, is this actually going to happen? And, dude, you get to a point where you're kind of, Andy Frisella says the only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth of the hole and how long you stay there. And I think that we all find ourselves in a rut from time to time, and it's very easy to start to mix those two things up, right? That rut does become a grave. But as long as you have hope, and I always say this to people, like, man, the power of being around other people is that sometimes you got to borrow somebody else's. When you don't have any for yourself, man, get around people that will lift you up. Get around people that will be that person that gives you the shot in the arm, that gives you that one more try, right? And thankfully, man, I had those people around me that and Lori is that person. When she came into my life, dude, I always say this, she believed in me more than I did. Probably still does to this day, I would imagine, right? And that's what it takes. And it takes having friends like you and a spouse like Lori and those people in your life that, like, none of us, dude, see the gifts in ourselves the way that other people do. And it takes being surrounded by those people that are willing to tell you that. And as you get told that more and more and more times, you actually start to accept it. And once you start to accept it and you start to realize how powerful you really are and what capabilities you actually have and what gifts God has given you that you're supposed to be giving away, that you're probably not giving away at the rate that you should just yet, man, you get wind behind your sails that you never thought was possible.
Talk about, I love everything you just said, and I've met your wife. You guys are a beautiful couple, and love you and your whole family. Talk about the imposter syndrome, because I know you've gone through it, especially when you created Top Contractor School, and you and I've talked about this because it's like, okay, I've done this and I've done these things, but what if I get a guy in with 20 years experience, comes into Top Contractor School, and I've only been doing it for a year and a half? Like, what the hell am I going to teach that guy, right? So talk a little bit about that imposter syndrome, where you feel like I'm not qualified to teach this guy, but I'm going to anyway.
Dude, it's so funny you bring this up. I just got off my coaching call with my coach, my advisor, right before this. Yeah. And this was the last thing we talked about.
Wow.
And the chapter in his book is called, I think it's called Superman. Let me pull it up because he literally just sent me the page. 1 million Supermen acting as Robin. And it means basically the idea is you have Superman inside of you, but you are actually acting as Robin, this secondary personality, because you're actually afraid of your own power. You're afraid of what is really inside of you. And what I said to him, we read the chapter in this book together that kind of describes this. And my feedback to him was, that's me. Still to this day, that's me. And the reason that happens, and I want everybody to listen very closely to this because you're all probably acting as Robin, at least a majority of you. When you're not using the power that you know exists, it's because society is telling you to be a certain way. It's because society is telling you that you are arrogant or that you're overconfident or that there's some negative response that people give you to how you're behaving. And here's what I said to him. And this is, come back on the screen when you can, Ken, because I want to see your expression when I say this one. He said, what is your thoughts on all of this? Like, how you recognize that in yourself. And I said, here's what I know, that I need to become that Superman version of myself. I need to become the real version as close as I can get, as fast as I can, because the reality is this, man, I am teaching other people to become Robin. I'm not teaching them to become Superman, because I can't possibly teach them how to be Superman until I'm that myself. Until I realize what I'm actually capable of. And I know the reason I wanted you on the screen, I know you've experienced the same thing. It's like, you feel like you're being a jerk if you really realize that you have something special. Yep. And that's wrong, man. It's wrong for people to try to dim someone else's flame because of their own insecurities. And I think this is important for people to hear, because I think we all subconsciously do it, not because we're bad people or anything, but because this is what we're taught. Society as a whole is afraid of success. They're afraid of, what happens when somebody else shows somebody what is possible. And so when somebody else shows you what's possible, now you have no choice but to live up to this new bar that exists, and it's intimidating.
It's scary as hell.
Isn't that what it's really all about? Is showing each other what's possible? Like, how many times, dude, have I had that conversation with you? I'm like, dude, stop it. Stop thinking less of yourself than you actually are. And dude, I need the same advice. I'm telling you, because it's easy for me to see it in you. It's not so easy for us to see it in ourselves. But that conversation literally just happened, man. And it is something that we have to realize. And here's what everyone needs to understand, that no matter how much experience somebody has, no matter how many years of experience, Ken has, I don't even know how many thousands of hours of experience, more than me on social media. But I guarantee you there's something that if we had a conversation, I could offer to Ken that was really valuable. It's not about experience or tenure or all these things. Again, remember, guys, a whole entire generation was taught that the longer you stayed at a job, the more valuable you were. How foolish.
Yep.
Whole generation was taught that, man.
Yeah.
And so we are unwiring all these things that we thought we know, right? We thought we knew. Yeah. My coach, when I interviewed him, Jay Duran, who I'm talking about, when I interviewed him for the first time, and you may remember this quote from this interview, I asked him, why do you read? He reads 160 something books a year. Why do you read so much? And his answer was, I read to unlearn the things that I thought I knew.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
And you and I are always talking about, you and I talk about books all the time. But there's one in particular that you called me one day and you said, hey, dude, I sent you a book from Amazon. You'll be getting it in the next day or two. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And you're like, no, serious, this book is going to rock your freaking world. And I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks, bro. And you're like, no, listen, dude, this is where Ed Milet gets his content and blah, 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 this book. And I'm like, all right, dude, I get it. I'm going to make $500 million a year like Ed Milet after I read this book. Thanks. This book is freaking life-changing. And I know, I even set up a private Facebook group that you and I are the only two members of because I was going to do something. It's one of those things that just got away from me. But it's called Beyond Positive Thinking, and it is it's freaking unbelievable. The book is absolutely unbelievable.
You want to hear a crazy story about that one? So I told you that, what, 2 years ago, probably something like that. Like, hey, this is, I know that this is where Ed gets his information from, right?
Yep.
On an Arate call about a month ago, and I'll send you this clip when we get off of this call. He actually said, somebody asked him about the reticular activating system and where they should read, what they should read about it and how to get more information on it. And he said, go read Dr. Robert Anthony. Any of his books will give you more information on this. And in fact, after you read them, you're going to figure out that this is where I get a lot of my content from. Actually said it in an article. Yes.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, the hunch was correct.
It was, man. It's a powerful book. And I again, here's the thing though. I mean, you can recommend, and this is something else that makes you incredibly successful, just like Jay Duran, is people will buy books, but they won't read them. And if I've read that book, I don't even know how many times now, because I pick it up and I'll read 2 chapters out of it and then go back and read more, a week later or something. But as I'm reading other books, but because it's so packed, that book in particular is so packed with absolutely mind-blowing information. Like it's you can't even. It's mind-blowing, and it's life-changing if you study it and implement it into your life. So talk about that. Like, how much has reading impacted your journey in the last 3 years?
Dude, this is literally like a mirror image of the last conversation I had. We were talking about reading books and applying that information, and why it's so important. Not just to be able to teach and help other people, but ultimately how to teach yourself. And the lesson that we were discussing today, that I was discussing with Jay, was the ability to consume information and then format that in a way that's not just helpful for yourself, but that is applicable. And so here's what I believe is the issue with education in today's world, is that school districts and all the public education system and higher education, all this, like, a lot of teachers are teaching, lesson plans that are created by someone else, as opposed to teaching from their own genius, which they possess. Right. And so for me, being able to take that information, consume content, whether it's through books or podcasts or YouTube or conversation or whatever it may be, but to be able to take that information and then deliver that in a structured format, which you have learned a lot about too, creating courses and creating, deliverable educational value to people. You actually have to train yourself in a way that you can think through this information. And so what I find is that now when I'm reading books, I'm reading them differently as a result of what I want to get out of them. What I want the deliverable to be is I want to be able to take that information and exchange it into deliverable information for my team, right? For the people that I interact with, for my podcast, for whatever it is. So I'm actually reading it with the intention of finding the gems that I can then convert into something valuable for other people. And so for me, man, I'm
Jerry.
You want to see, I don't want to show you this because there's too many notes, but literally number 8 on the list of notes that I just took, perspective book, very important, how to create it into an instructional format of how to change your life, how to change your perspective, which changes your life. It'll happen in July.
Dude, it really, and I know your book's coming. Jerry's doesn't have the insider scoop like I do, but you just said something that I don't want to just blow over, and that is, if you change your perspective, it'll change your life. So many people don't realize how close to massive success they really are. They just don't realize. And I'm talking, you may be down to 72 cents left in your bank account and no credit cards at all and no ability to get a loan. And if you change, it sounds insane to say this, but I've been there. I've been worse than that, like $720 overdrawn in my account and no ability to get a loan. But changing my perspective, changing my my viewpoint of the world, and it's through reading a book and then applying. You can literally change your life. I don't want to blow past that because, Brian, I know that you've had moments where you couldn't pay your bills. I know you've had moments where you didn't know how you were going to buy groceries. I know you've had those moments. So talk about that, how you were able to have that shift a few years ago when you started this whole process, the journey of creating this company.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize, man. I think there's not a lot of people that haven't been in that spot, and most people see, the end result, and they don't really take the time to look at what's under the surface. And there was a time in my life where I went from making a ton of money to not making a lot of money. And no matter what you do, you can't slow the train down fast enough to not have a pinch on your life, right? Like, you have a certain level of living, and then that changes. The amount of money coming in changes, and it will alter that. What I will challenge you all to think about is, does that have to alter your state of mind? It doesn't have to. That's a choice. You are not a different person with $720 overdrawn in your bank account. You're no different than you are with $700,000 in your bank account. You're not a different person. You just have less money. Let that sink in for a minute. You just have less money. You don't know any less. You don't have to do anything different every day. Your actions don't need to be different. And so for me, the last chapter in the book, man, I'll give everybody a little preview. The title is, "What if heaven was nothing more than a new pair of glasses?"
Dude,
what if and that's it, man. Like,
wow.
What if your life was a choice? What if how you feel in the next moment, and maybe there's somebody watching this right now that is, in that exact situation that you're describing. What if the next moment in your life, you get to decide how you feel? It's 11:43 Eastern. At 11:44, you get to choose how you feel. You don't have to feel the exact same way that you do. And so that is what I realized in that moment, is like, I am attracting what I think about. So I'm attracting these problems because I'm thinking about problems. If I start thinking about solutions, I'm going to reprogram my mind to think a different way. And that's all it is. It's like, it's the equivalent of, what you look for. And I used this example this morning with someone. If you look for the blessings in the world, actually, it's in the Instagram post that I just put out today. If you think about the blessings in the world, and that's what you're looking for, you're going to see everybody holding doors and being kind to each other and doing. And if you watch the news and you want to think about doom and gloom all day, you're going to find that too, man. It is a choice. And this is why the power of who you surround yourself with is so significant. Your life is your choice. You get to decide how this thing turns out. People
don't realize that. They don't realize that.
Circumstances. Dude, nobody that I know that has made it big has allowed circumstances to dictate how they show up. That's the words. That's the words of Ben Newman in a way. Like, he talks about how you show up shouldn't be connected to how you feel. I've felt that way for years. He just puts it in a way that's easy to understand. Like, if you let your emotions dictate how you show up, that's your problem. Whether your bank account's overdrawn by $720 or you got $720,000 in it, if you show up differently as a result of that, that's on you.
That's on you. Do you have a microphone you can just drop right now, like that? Because that's so true. It is 1,000% true. And the crazy part is you're right. It actually is going to the way that you show up with the thoughts you're having, the way you view the world is literally going to dictate the next outcome, which could be the next meeting you have. It could be the next client that owes you money that hasn't paid yet. It could be any number of things. And it's it is so important for people to get this, man. And it's all about your perspective. It's all about your perspective. Look, Jared said, I'm a very patient person, but hurry up on that book. That's awesome.
I promise, as fast as I can.
Did you say July?
I'm going to finish it in July, and then it'll come.
Dude, that's tomorrow. Let's go. So July 2nd, Brian's book is coming out, everybody.
You heard it here first, right?
I'm kidding. Dude, so you know, I asked this, and I don't know if I asked you this before. And you know, but I'm going to ask it again, even if I did ask before. What do you think the number one thing is? You can't say fear because everybody says fear. What do you think the number one thing is that holds people back in life from two things? Number one, financial success. And number two, real happiness and freedom in life. And I do believe that those two things are related. Just my personal opinion. I believe they're related. Because I've been broke and I've been wealthy, and wealthy is better.
I'm going to give you a curveball here.
Okay.
And people are probably going to process. It's going to take a minute for people to process what I'm going to say. But I think that people's lack of telling the truth.
I believe that.
That their lack of telling the truth to themselves, telling the truth to others, being afraid of what happens when you do tell the truth. And so, I want you guys to really think about this. Like, when you are not truthful, like when you're not living in your own truth and you're not telling the truth, you start to not trust yourself. And I think that compounds, right? And you being in both places, me have been, being in both places, isn't it relevant to say, and listen, guys, the truth comes with a lot of conflict. The truth comes with a massive amount of, people not liking what you have to say, things being difficult for people to hear. The truth comes with all kinds of, challenging things with it. But the truth will make you more confident. It will create momentum in your life. It will create people around you that really trust you at a higher level when that's what you're actually looking for. You don't have to tell people what they want to hear for them to trust you and respect you. And those people that you're able to tell the truth to are going to get better. And I've seen it in my own life, man. Like, there's a million things that I wasn't being honest enough. I'm an honest person, but am I really being honest enough in a genuine way that just comes with the best of intentions? And as I've been able to be more truthful with myself and others, it has created just a massive amount of success.
It's because when you're not being truthful, whether you're telling the truth to others, or I think primarily it's telling the truth to yourself, you carry a different energy. And like Einstein said, everything is energy in motion. So, when we've all met that person where we're like, dude, I have a feeling you've spent most of your life in prison, and I don't really want to be near you right now, or you've met that person where you're like, man, the magnetism, I just want to be near this person. I want to talk to this person. I want to, the Grant Cardone of the world, the Ed Milet's, the Andy Frisellas, those people, they have this magneticness, hopefully me, but there's this magnetism that people are drawn to because of the energy that you're emitting to the world based on what you're doing with yourself, what truths you're telling or not telling, the lies, whatever. It creates an energy.
Yeah, people can see it in you. I mean, I believe that. And the more that I've been able to work on this with myself, the more I can see it in other people. And the more I'm able to help other people see those areas in themselves, right? And challenge them to see it. And I believe that's the people we all want to be around, right? Those people that are, genuinely have a good heart and they come from a great place, but they're willing to tell you the truth. I value those people the most in my own life. So I want to be that person for other people.
Last thing I want to talk about is I don't know if you've heard this story, but Jill and my wife and I opened up our first office years ago, right after we first met and started dating. And we had a handful of employees, 4 or 5. And everybody was getting paid except for us. And one day, this big old dude that worked for me comes in my office. He goes, "There's a guy looking in the windows of your SUV out in the parking lot." And I'm like, "Dude, why are you go tell him get the hell out of here? Why are you telling me? You're bigger than I am." And he's like, he has it blocked with his tow truck. And he was there to repo my car in front of all my employees. That was a day where I felt more humiliation than I've ever felt in my life. And I can remember having that moment of, would anybody even notice if I wasn't here? Because I was like you talked about earlier. And the sad thing is in 2020, a lot of people, the suicide rates in this world just skyrocketed, man. And that it breaks my heart, because I know that it was pain in the moment that caused them to take their own life. And I know that pain eventually passes. It goes away.
Sure does. For
somebody that's listening right now that may be at the end of their rope, somebody that has tied the knot and hung on, like, the cliche says to do, and they just, the knot has come undone and they're falling now. What do you say to that person to help them get through to the next moment? What do you say? What kind of hope can you give that person to help them stay in the fight?
It's real simple, man. It always gets better. And what you're going through right now is one of the greatest gifts you will ever get. It's just wrapped up in a really crappy package. And, I remember, going back to 2020, which you referenced, I remember I got asked this on the podcast interview on the Contractor Fight. He said, if you were to go back to 2019 and give yourself any advice going into 2020, what would that advice be? And I said, I would say, be prepared to get the greatest gift that you've ever gotten wrapped in the worst packaging ever. And, I think that it's those moments in our lives, if we can see the gifts in those real struggles, like rock bottom is a trampoline. It is not a place that you live. And I think that when we're in that moment, we feel like that's a permanent residence, when it's actually just a stop on the road. And so it's finding that hope, that maybe it's just a glimmer of hope, but holding on to that hope, knowing that you get to decide in the next moment how you feel. You really do get to decide. And that is, I've been in that place. I know how hard it is sometimes to see that, but trust me, get around different people, call someone who cares, call someone, keep calling people until you find that person that rekindles that flame, and gets you that little glimmer of hope that gets you to the next moment. And it's moment by moment, right? You make the decisions that determine that next moment. And you just have to if you made terrible decisions that got you to that place, you just have to make slightly better ones to start moving in the right direction. And that is the key to the whole process, is you don't have to go from where you're at to the top of the mountain. You just got to get out of the ditch. And that's the key. And I think it is moment to moment. It's making the conscious decision to make slightly better decisions and realize that there are people out there like me, like Ken, that want to help you, that will be there to talk you through it, that have been in your position, that have thought, man, would anybody actually care? And the reality is, yes, the world needs you, and the world needs your story to be told so that less people can feel like you're feeling in that moment. And so you have the ability to be somebody else's inspiration. You just got to make one good decision after the next one. Don't worry about getting to the top of the mountain. Worry about the next decision, making the next decision better than the last one. And eventually you chain those together and you end up in a great spot.
And make a decision.
Yes.
Even if it may turn out to be the wrong decision, make a freaking decision, because that, I think, and I think you would agree, is one of the biggest downfalls of mankind is sitting on the fence and not making a decision. So,
yep.
Contractor School is where you can go check out everything that Brian's talking about. Follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook, follow him everywhere. This dude is one wise man and a good friend of mine, and I can't recommend Brian enough. So if you want to change your life, start following Brian Hess. Brian, thank you, brother.
The feeling is mutual, brother. It's been super cool to be on this journey together, and to watch each other grow and to be there and, to have the conversations. And I remember having a conversation with you on my way to Lancaster, Pennsylvania years ago. And just to watch the differences in both of our lives since then is awesome, man. So thank you for having me, man. If anybody wants to connect, man, send me a DM. Any friend of Ken's is a friend of mine, and would be happy to have a conversation with you if there's anything you're struggling with or anything I can help you with.
There you go. Hit him up. Brian, thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Hang tight for a minute. See you guys later. Thanks so much.